Welcome to my review of the LEGO Star Wars 2025 Jango Fett's Starship. Nope, not the Slave one. Disney asked LEGO not to call it the Slave one, so it's the Starship here. Set number 75409 with 2,970 pieces. It's got a $300 retail price, which feels very fair for what it looks like you're getting here. The ship on the front of the box looks very cool with that blue hue behind it. It's got the all-black box art. This is a set in particular, though, that does make you really wish they weren't doing the all-black box art, because the original UCS Slave 1 has one of the best box arts of all time. Looking at the back of Jango's box, though, you'll see his Slave 1 on its display stand. You've got the dimensions for the build. You've got a singular movie shot, as well as a few more different shots of the build. Now, unboxing the set, you're going to find a ton of numbered bags, as well as a healthy sticker sheet and a couple of instruction manuals, inside of which you'll find a lot of cool artwork from Attack of the Clones, as well as some history on the Slave 1 in universe. And I know it's going kind of fast, just pause to read or look at whatever you like, and then at the very end they show off a bunch of the features actually in the Slave 1, which is pretty cool. Now, there's two minifigs included in this set, and we'll start with the one that's actually pretty good in Jango Fett. He's the first Jango Fett minifig to get arm printing. You can see him compared to the previous versions, and that arm printing I really think does elevate this figure to a UCS level, which is great to see. I especially love the representation of his wrist rocket. I just think that's cool. Now, in his hands, he's holding a couple of blasters, which is what they've been using for him since 2013. They're unique compared to the standard LEGO Star Wars blasters they give characters, and I think that's good because Jango obviously has some fairly unique blasters in universe. Would I love a custom mold for it? Sure, but is that realistic to expect from LEGO Star Wars given their philosophy on weapons? No. The torso and leg detail on Jango is also exceptional, down to the holsters on his legs. He's even got footprinting for the first time, so that's nice. Again, elevating this minifig to what I would call UCS level. But perhaps what really brings this figure up, a true facelift on the Jango Fett minifig, is the new helmet design and the rangefinder. So the rangefinder has been shrunk down and made far more accurate than the previous version, which I think looks great here. It's something I was worried that compared to the old one, for lack of a better term, would look fat, but I really don't think that's the case. I think it looks really great. It functions great. It doesn't fall out of the head very easily, so that's just what you want there. It's got a good solid connection. Now, looking at the actual helmet print, it is largely similar to the previous two versions. However, they have really just cleaned it up in a lot of areas, in a lot of little ways, and they also fixed up the line issue at the top of the helmet where there was this weird gap and the shaping was a bit odd across the top, and so now it's just a much sharper, cleaner look for the Jango Fett helmet. It also appears that the type of plastic being used for the helmet is slightly different, because the two most recent versions had this marble-esque pattern on top, and that is now gone, which I think looks better. Here's a quick look at the back print, but for most people, you'll probably have it covered up with the jetpack, and it is included in gunmetal gray, not silver, like we saw in the previous versions of Jango. Now, the face underneath is going to be unique for Jango here, and he's got a really nice, angry look with a stubble beard, and I feel like they really nailed it. And oh, hey, they included a hairpiece for him. Look at that. Look how nice that looks with the hairpiece on there. I think it's a great hairpiece choice for Jango here. And then he's also got another face where he's a little more stern looking. But for some reason, they didn't include a pilot face where he's got his microphone on, which makes absolutely no sense to me. That 1000% should be included here. You see that on the 2002 Jango Fett figure. You see it in the Obi-Wan minifigure and the Obi-Wan Starfighter that perfectly matches with this UCS set. But for some reason, the Jango Fett and the $300 UCS set doesn't get that same attention to detail. I don't know why. It's unfortunate, and I still think this is the best Jango Fett minifig ever, but they definitely left a little something on the table there. The other minifig included here is Young Boba Fett, and I think this one is so bad that it's in contention for worst LEGO Star Wars minifig of the decade. LEGO's ability to mess up a clone trooper seemingly knows no bounds. And before I even go into detail on why, you should know that the actor that played Young Boba Fett, Daniel Logan, reposted an Instagram post talking about how bad this minifig is. When's the last time you saw an actor say their own minifig was bad? I don't think I've ever seen that, so if you don't believe me, maybe you'll believe Daniel Logan. But starting with the hairpiece, I think it's pretty clearly a horrible choice for him, so much so that a lot of people say it looks like he's going through his emo phase or his My Chemical Romance phase. It just doesn't look like Young Boba Fett at all. They had a much better hairpiece for him in the past. I'm sure they could have reused that or found a better one than this. Now, some people say this piece better represents his hair when it's wet on Kamino, and I guess you could make that argument if they had included his poncho that he has when his hair is wet. I really don't like his his happy face look, it doesn't even really look like Young Boba, in my opinion. The more disgruntled face he has on the other side, I think is better. Now, his skin tone is updated, so it's darker than the previous versions. Obviously, the 2002 one being yellow, a bit of an exception there. But I don't know if I truly find this skin tone to be a better match to Young Boba. I think the real logic is that it's the Clone Trooper skin tone that they've been using, so they have to use it here. The arm color is another thing they changed up here, and the only way I can reason through it is that they were trying to match Jango Fett's arm color, because their like undersuits should technically be the same color, but Young Boba already had the correct arm color with the darker blue. Jango was always the one who had the wrong undersuit color, which most people are okay with because it looks good, it's fine, whatever. But changing Young Boba's undersuit to match Jango just looks silly in my opinion. Stacking on top of that, they've changed the torso and leg color to a lighter blue than the 2017 and 2002 versions. I never realized how like deep blue the 2013 version was, because I never had it in hand until now, but we'll ignore that version. It's also not that good. But I really can't believe the color choices here. When you look at it side by side, it is clearly wrong. Another thing that's clearly wrong is the belt. If you look on the right, you'll see Obi-Wan's Jedi robes. Those are brown. Boba's belt clearly is the same color as his arms. So I don't even understand how brown was an option. Getting down to the legs, it's a UCS set. I can't believe they didn't give him dual molded legs to have his boots represented like he has in episode 2, or maybe at the very least a little footprinting of black, but realistically he should just have dual molded legs because that would be more accurate and better looking. And you know what? This figure's so bad that I am really gonna nitpick here. The folds of his clothing are now the wrong direction. Back in 2017, you can see the lines on his torso are generally vertical, which matches what you see in the movie, and now they are more horizontal, which doesn't match what you see in the movie. Like, I can recognize how much of a nitpick that is, but at the same time, we had it right. Why is it now wrong? It's that level of Lego Star Wars minifig design that I do not comprehend when you're saying stuff like this.
No detail is left unturned. Every little garment and weapon and accessory is has to be perfect.
Enough about the minifigs though. This thing is simply magnificent. It's displayed on its stand as if it's flying, just like the original UCS Slave one, which clearly looks incredible here. It's easily removable from that stand if you did want to display it in a landed position. Now on the stand, we have our display card, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't disappointing that this does say Jango Fett's Starship and not either the Slave one, or what I really thought they would do here was use like fire spray or whatever the in-universe name of this vehicle is. I thought they would use instead of Starship. It'd be like putting Han Solo's freighter on the UCS Millennium Falcon plaque. Outside of that, it's got some nice info and it's beautifully printed on the matte tile piece here. So I think it's a really nice display plaque. I just know for some people, Starship is a pretty big hang up here. One more thing, they are trying to hide the dimple on the box. It doesn't show a dimple at all in the render, and clearly in person, there's a big old dimple in the middle of your tile. The first part of the Slave One's build I want to dive into is the backside, the engine area. It just looks so good. It's incredible that for something you're not really going to see, they've put so much attention to the detail here. You've got translucent yellow with white underneath to make that thrust really pop. And then something I keyed in on here was this little dark red piece that looks like a tongue. It looks like it's a tongue of a face that's on the back of the Slave One. And I thought this must be something fun the designers added to make it look like there's a face on the back of it. But then I looked at the movie and there's clearly a little red stripe there. So the attention to detail on the back of this thing is just crazy. Plus, when you look at this, you're able to get a really good idea of how the shaping came together with so many different pieces connecting at random points. Like, it's crazy to look at. There is one more hidden feature at the back of the Slave One here with the seismic charge. Now, the doors don't like slide open or anything fancy. You got to do it the old-fashioned way and rip them off and then place them back to the side here. It opens up this compartment that actually holds the seismic charge, and unfortunately there's no like easy way to like make it fly out back at, you know, a spaceship that might be following it, but you can simply remove it and then have it fly at the camera and detonate or whatever. It's pretty nice, but it's unfortunately stickered up, and it is a little bit annoying because it's one of the pieces that they often print for astromech droid heads. So this very easily could have been an all printed seismic charge. It's unfortunate that it's not, but as you've probably seen in my reviews, I'm not the biggest stickler for stickers. Now, as I pulled the Slave One off its stand again, I want you to pay attention to the wings here. We'll be laying it down to take a look at the rest of the build, and the wings will actually rotate with the build. That's just like how it should be. It's really cool that that works. Obviously, it's kind of an expected feature at this point, but it works exactly like it should, which is great. I want to talk kind of broadly about the paneling and the angles and the gaps on this set first. It's wild how well this came together. There are very few gaps that you would look at and be like, man, I wish that was filled in. I can really only think of one here that you see at the top side of the Slave 1. Everything else is closed off super nicely. Like, you're gonna have gaps, it's a Lego piece, but like for the most part, it's crazy how tight the tolerances are between a lot of these panels and pieces. It's also notable that the panels are very strong. They are well attached to the ship, and it makes picking it up not a problem. Basically, you don't have to worry about it falling apart in your hands, which you kind of expect in modern Lego, but you never know with some of these bigger sets. You can end up with some pieces that are a bit flimsy. You're gonna find other stickers with more detail throughout the exterior that I think really helps make it more accurate, down to some of the Arabesh on the outside of the Slave 1 here. So I don't think the stickers hurt this set really, but I know some people are like strictly against stickers, so I get it if that's the camp you're in. My biggest complaint about the exterior is probably that they were too cheap to recolor a couple of these wedges that you see in light gray that really should be sand green for an all sand green design there. It's pretty lame that they didn't do that. Moving on though, we've got some beautifully designed twin blaster cannons, and these move together. So when you push down on one, the other one is going to go with it, and they look really nice here. Obviously, you're going to probably keep them there forever, but it's nice that if you wanted to, you can move them. The other main blasters can be found on the side of the Slave 1 here. The nose overall though has a perfect color scheme, even down to the separate greens at the bottom of it. You got great angling on the front here. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous work. And like I said, it's very strong. It's an area that you can actually pick up the ship from if you'd like. You can see some of the Technic inner workings here from while I was building it. It's just crazy well built. A feature I was very surprised by was the loading ramp. First off, you wouldn't even know that it actually functions by just looking at it because of how clean it's designed, but you can literally just push down on it and it will open the door. So the door opens, you can have young Boba standing at the entryway yelling at his dad up in the cockpit, let's go, whatever. And when you're done having fun with that and you want to close it, you just put your finger at the top of the door here and push it all the way down. It doesn't really like lock into place or anything. It's just this really smooth feeling mechanism. It's actually kind of oddly satisfying to use here. So I love it. I think it's a great, very cool, like accurate feature. And again, you can once again appreciate some of the angling that's going on underneath the Slave 1's nose. It's crazy work across the board. The next important section here is of course the cockpit. And it's actually a new windscreen piece, and it actually came in its own paper bag to protect it from being scratched up by other pieces, which was really nice to see. Now to remove it, you just pull up on it like that, and the actual piece is not that different than what we had back in 2015. It's just slightly longer, I think, but it looks really clean. I'm glad that they kept it a regular translucent clear and not the darker color that they've been using on certain sets, and it doesn't look so pretty. So this was definitely a good color choice. You can see some great detail underneath the front of it, and at the back, that's the orange piece that attaches to those orange pieces. So that's like the only attachment point of the cockpit. That's it. That's all it is. So just on and off. That's simple. Now, I think we should throw it back on the stand to look in here since this is all vertical. Now, in case you didn't pick up on it, these sections absolutely do not rotate. The bottom section with a couple of seats there is completely stationary, but the upper section you can actually remove by just pulling it out. Looking at the front of it, you'll see this big red light, which I assume is some sort of targeting sensor. It's what we see in the movie, so it's supposed to be there. It looks really cool. And then on the back side, you've got some control panels, one with the actual Slave 1, one kind of showing some star system, I think, and then we have just a normal targeting control panel in the center, I would believe. So yeah, on top of that, you've got 3 seats, one for each control panel as well, and the seats look really nice. They match the seats that you see in that lower level. We'll take young Boba Fett here, slot him into one seat, and then for Jango, we got to remove all of his accessories and even his jetpack here. And this is exactly why it's sad that he doesn't have that microphone pilot face print that he really should have here. Like, what were they thinking to not include that? Anyway, unlike young Boba, he doesn't have to stand. He actually does get to sit down there. And yeah, with a couple of people in their seats here, it does look really cool. Now we do have these leftover Jango Fett accessories, and luckily they thought of that. Right behind where they'd be sitting, you've got the secret compartment that you can pull out, flip around. You're gonna find a couple of clips where you can actually place Jango's blasters. And then in the center, we've got a back to tank, which is really dope. I saw some people saying that this might be a reference to the Star Wars Bounty Hunters video game from the early 2000s, which I never played, but that very well could be the case. And with that stud on top, you can just take the jetpack, lay it on there, and it's great that you can put away some of his accessories. Unfortunately, there's still not a spot for the helmet, but this is pretty crazy cool to have this hidden behind the cockpit area. Putting that section back in is just as easy as it was to take out. Now above that, interestingly, there's a sticker that says UVU or OVO 4. It's a reference really to the Slave 1 name without saying Slave 1, which I find fascinating that they would do. But yeah, it's definitely there right above the cockpit. Now it does get covered up once you place it back on. So it's kind of like a hidden thing. Now, just to make sure that it can be done, I've got a couple of my Misprint crew minifigs. We'll place them on these lower seats and make sure that everything closes up just fine with them in there. And unsurprisingly, it does. So you can fit up to 5 minifigs in the interior, no problem. Next, I got to show you this Jango Fett Slave 1 next to a couple of other builds. First off, from 2022, Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter, a set that's still available as of the release of this set, and they scale very nicely together. They're both fairly close to minifig scale, and so seeing them next to each other just makes me happy. It works really well. And to me, it's a pairing of sets that if you go out and buy this larger Jango Fett Slave 1, you should absolutely be buying the smaller Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. Now, there is a bigger Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter, but I didn't have time to finish that build before this review. The other thing you're probably keen to see next to the Jango Slave 1 is Boba's Slave 1, and I'm going to be doing a full comparison video on the channel. However, what I really want you to take away from looking at these side by side is the shaping on Jango's and just how much better it is. Somehow, they made what I thought was a top 5, top 3 LEGO Star Wars set of all time look dated in the Boba Fett Slave 1. Mostly because of how straight its sides are. That's something that this Jango Slave 1 completely avoids, but Boba's was pretty flat on the side, and so having more curvature with the Jango just looks way better and, of course, more accurate. Before I get my final thoughts, I kind of noticed one more thing. There's no spot for Jango or Boba on the stand, which makes it even dumber that they didn't include the microphone faceprint for Jango Fett when the only spot for him is to actually be piloting the Slave 1. Anyway, this UCS Jango Fett Slave 1 is immaculate. It's a near perfect model for $300 outside of the Young Boba, the Jango not getting the faceprint that you'd like, and a couple of pieces that they were too cheap to recolor. This is a really, really good set. It's one that I don't think is worth skipping. I think if you ever wanted a UCS Jango Fett Slave 1, take advantage of the opportunity in front of you. They're not remaking this again in the future. And I feel like I kind of glossed over pricing in this video. This set doesn't feel overpriced at all. It's very much worth the $300. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars 2025 set reviews on the end screen now.